Hi, mystery writers. This is Mystery Fix, and I'm Sarah Altair, mystery author and coach. And today I want to talk about the prickly beginning because the beginning of your story is what gets your reader there. So, just like the rest of your story, it's scene by scene. So, let's take a look today at that very first scene and what you need to do to accomplish your goals for getting the story started and the reader involved. So, a scene is a revelation. So, just keep that in your head because I think a lot of beginning writers don't understand what's supposed to happen at the beginning of a story. Because the first moment is make or break for getting your reader involved. So writing advice for beginning novelists can be confusing, like start with a hook or show the hero's everyday world, and it's easy to go way off track by starting with a sex scene to grab the reader attention with a hook and then go on to something else that proves that the first scene is really extraneous. Or in the everyday world, the hero wakes up, looks in the mirror in the bathroom with a complete physical description, red curly hair, blue eyes, speckles on his nose, blah, 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 and then goes to the kitchen to make breakfast. But nothing has happened, and we really don't know very much about your sleuth. So neither of these devices used incorrectly gets your reader into the story, and that's your job. That's your goal at the beginning. Get your reader into the story. So you want to reassure your reader that the story you promised feels like the genre they want, gets your protagonist in action right away, and delivers a dilemma that keeps your reader reading more. So what do readers want in that first chapter? Readers want to know your mystery is worth their time and emotional involvement because it's going to be, several hours of reading, and they're going to be spending their time reading your story instead of doing something else. So at the beginning, you want to deliver the goods up front. So introduce and focus on the sleuth right there, bang up front, your sleuth. And make sure the tone reflects the tone of your story. Your reader wants to know if they like the way the story is told. And that's one of the reasons that crazy, wild sex scene to get somebody hooked, then the rest of the story isn't like that. That's one of the reasons it doesn't work. The tone has to reflect how the story is told consistently throughout your mystery. It helps to show a weakness and a strength so your reader gets to know the character, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a moment. And you really want the reader to know they're in the genre they expect. So even, if you're looking at subgenres within the mystery genre, a cozy is going to be a little more lighthearted and closed community than something dark. So make sure that right from the beginning your reader knows, okay, this is what I was expecting. I looked at the cover, I read the description, and here I go. I'm reading the story, and yep, it's promising exactly, it's delivering exactly what it promised from getting me there to buy the book. So once you know what needs to be at the beginning, you can start your opening scene. And the opening scene is like, it's a scene. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end, just like any scene. But I'm going to walk you through how we do that with your sleuth. All right, so how do you get your reader to go from the hook to the protagonist ordinary world in a mystery. It just seems like, wait, there's this and then there's this, and I don't know how to bring them together. And the best way to navigate that opening scene is through the emotional states of your protagonist. And in our case, that's your sleuth. So starting with physical details can lead a beginning writer in the wrong direction. You know, what kind of buttons does he have on his shirt, and da da da, and your reader's like going to sleep before they've even read the first page. So jump right in to how your detective feels. So every scene needs an emotional turn. So starting with a feeling gets your reader on board emotionally, and that's what you want to do. You want to get them on board emotionally. Start with your sleuth in the middle of something in their everyday world, and then give them a want. And it can be really small. Remember, this is the beginning. You're introducing your reader to your sleuth's world. So maybe they're returning a spoiled cabbage to the market, or attempting to reach a partner, friend, girlfriend, whatever, on the phone, or knocking at their door, or whatever it is. And show your sleuth's emotions as he starts into this little, like a mini project, the thing that he's in the middle of. So show that emotion, whatever it is. Ick, ooh, spoiled cabbage, disgust, anger, or eager to connect with tonight's dinner, bowling night, date, whatever it is. Show his emotions. Give the reader that emotional connection to your character right away. And as I said, it doesn't have to be a big deal. It can be something very small in their ordinary world, but we're setting up the reader in that ordinary world. Then the turning point of your scene, the midpoint, is something that impedes your sleuth's progress. And aim to make that happen really early, even as early as the first page. The big impediment, the obstacle, that first conflict, bring it on. So a stranger, the sleuth's opposition, you're going to introduce that character right now if you do this. Or a friend asks for help, tells him to drop tonight's date, pushes them down as they flee. Your choice. There's a world of obstacles you can use that impede your sleuth on this little tiny thing in their everyday world, and all of a sudden, whammo, things change. That's what you want to get. You want to bring your reader into how your sleuth is feeling, and then bang, something happens that changes direction in the story. So and you get to use your imagination. This is a really fun part of writing stories, I think. The stranger can turn out to be a key suspect as the mystery unfolds, or the murder victim, or your sleuth left his weapon at home, or lost a phone connection, or, just use your imagination. But you just want to bring up this conflict, this impediment, this prickly thing that kind of poking your sleuth right at the beginning. And then show your sleuth's emotional response to this interruption. And the key is to cause that disturbance, that prickly something that just gets in the way of the ordinary world. And now you're bringing your reader into the story. And your sleuth and your reader will experience an emotional change from the beginning to the end of the scene. So your sleuth starts out one way, and they're happy, they're going out on this hot date, or they're going to hang out with their best pal. It doesn't matter, just some tiny little thing. And your reader's going, okay, I kind of like this guy. And then at that prickly moment, that disturbance, you can show one of your sleuth strengths, more about your sleuth. You can show one of his weaknesses. He's forgetful, whatever it is, just a little tickles of who your sleuth is for your reader. So you're bringing them on board and they want to know more. They want to know more about your character. They want to know what happens next. Whoo, I think that's what gets readers to 10 pages. So each emotional response, so don't be sparing. Each emotional response ties your reader to your hero in ways just telling action won't do. So you need that emotional hook. So focus on the emotional world of your protagonist and represent those emotions through action, and dialogue, and even internal thinking. And when the protagonist's emotions change, you bring the reader into the story. So for beginning writers, I want to emphasize that you don't have to get it right. Just get it. That it's that emotional turnaround that you want to have happen in that first scene. Experienced writers may go back and edit and rewrite or even change the first scene, so don't feel like you're tied to your first attempt. But just make that first scene that focus on the emotional change. So on your first round, if you focus on the emotional tenor and how it changes and shifts from the beginning of the scene to the end of the scene, your sleuth's experiences bring your reader into the story. That's so important at the beginning. Just get your reader on board. So you want to meet your reader expectations right away with genre, tone, the main character, and a weakness and a strength, while constructing a scene based on an emotional shift. And that's what I want to emphasize, the emotional shift. So reveal some small piece of the way the world works for your sleuth. Make sure your character starts out wanting something. Remember, it doesn't have to be big. It can be tiny. And then something comes along. Ooh, ow, prickly, ouch, disturbance, it's conflict. Something impedes that original want, whatever it was. And then you're going to reveal your character by how they confront that impediment, what their weaknesses are, what their emotional responses are, what their strengths are. It's really easy to play with this. And it can be a success or a failure, but somehow it answers the question set up at the beginning. Is he going to, make the day, go out with his buddy, whatever it is. That prickly moment is the turning point of the emotional change in your first scene. And it's the emotional unit that changes the character state. So right away, as soon as your reader gets into your story, they got, okay, I think I've got this sleuth down, but whoops, wait a minute, something happens, and now more is revealed, because the purpose of the story is to give the reader an emotional interpretation of the world. That's why for so many beginning writers, when they go, your character's everyday world, and they've got, the street and the blah, 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 and all of that is okay, the room they live in. But what's important to the reader is not the physical description. It's the emotional interpretation of the sleuth's world. So focus your opening scene on that interpretation. Disturb your character in their world and give him a prickle. All right, that's it for today's Mystery Fix. As always, please ask any questions and support me on Patreon to keep these videos going, and I will see you next time.